Well, hi everybody. A very pleasant Monday evening to you out here in East County or wherever else you might be. Oh my gosh, I was taken by shock there. Thanks so much to Ramon Scott from EastCountySports.com for doing such a beautiful entrance. Thank you so much, Ramon. And thank you so much to Adam Paul from EC Preps being here. And of course, our special guest tonight, Karen Pearlman from the San Diego Union-Tribune. Just so everybody knows, before we get going, a couple things we're going to cover tonight. Certainly, Karen's going to cover what's going on in news in East County for us. We're also going to have some stuff from the Padres. We've got some interviews with the manager, Jace Tingler, with shortstop Fernando Tatis Jr., and we're going to talk about the prep sports, too. We got a lot to talk about. Let's start with Karen Pearlman. Karen, what's going on in your world? It looks like you got your San Diego Union-Tribune hat on.
I do. So I hope everyone's had a good couple of weeks. Haven't been able to get to too many sports stuff, but I'm looking forward to our sports chat tonight. I've been covering a lot of city council meetings on Zoom and other online endeavors, and everyone's doing their budgets right now. So I've got everyone's budgets covered. So everyone's hopefully able to get everything they need in their different cities. Today I wrote about the San Miguel Fire District. They did their budget. They got a brand new $1.4 million truck that they'll be rolling out next month. Beautiful. I went out there and took some photos tonight. So that's going to be in the paper this week. Last Friday, I went to the reopening of the La Mesa Certified Farmers Market, which was really great. Lots of people were out there, social distancing. It was really kind of cool to have people out in the village again. As you know, after those protests turned into riots, the downtown area got kind of decimated. So it's nice to see the farmers market coming back to life. People out there shopping on Friday. It's cool. Couple other stories I worked on. The Hampton Inn opened up a new hotel at the old police station site at the corner of Fletcher Parkway and Magnolia. I got a little tour of the hotel. It's their second. They told me it's like a 3.5 star, not really a 4-star, whatever that means. But I got a little tour of the Hampton Inn, which was so cool. And I had never been in the old police station over there, so it was kind of nice to be able to think about what had happened there and how they moved to their new station over on the other side of El Cajon. The other thing I was writing about was Crisis House, which is a place that helps homeless and victims of domestic violence kind of get their lives back together again. So they've leased a building in El Cajon for 26 years at right across from the Hampton Inn, and their lease ends next July. So they're kind of being pushed out a little bit early. They're getting some money, some incentives if they leave by a certain date. But it's kind of sad to see that place go because it's a very it's important to help those kinds of people that really have no other place to go. It's just one of those very important nonprofits that just do a lot in the community that you may not hear about, but their presence is really huge. So I worked on that. That ran last week in the paper. Last weekend. And it's mostly just been like budgets and things like that. I haven't been covering too much of the protests and those kinds of things, the defunding of the police and all these different things. I haven't been covering very much. Other reporters have been covering those events and whatnot. But over the weekend, I did cover this cool motorcycle rally that a lot of veterans were part of. They went from Veterans Museum at Balboa Park. They went up to Mount Soledad in La Jolla. They played taps at the very top. It was very moving. And then they moved along. They ended up in Oceanside where they cut some patriotic cakes with the mayor up there at the pier in Oceanside. There's about 200 motorcycle riders from all across the county that took part in it was a parade. And I actually got to be part of it. I drove along with them in the parade. It was really cool. People were honking the horns. And when they got to La Jolla and were going up Mount Soledad Road, all these cyclists were, waving their hands like that. And people walking their dogs stopped and cheered. It was super, super cool. So that's kind of the stuff I've been covering. Yeah.
Now, Karen, I was going to ask you, because one thing, obviously the feature paper of the week is the Sunday paper. Sounds to me like you must be doing a lot of weekend reporting because I opened the paper on Sunday morning, and there you are on the front page. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's exciting. Well, for a long time, I didn't have a Saturday shift. They had a lot of other reporters, but when a bunch of people took the buyout a few months ago, there was all these open spots for Saturday reporters. So they put me in the queue. So I worked 4 Saturdays in a row. And then I volunteered to work on the 4th of July just because I wanted to see what that was like. And that's why I worked this past Saturday. But I won't be working a Saturday unless it's like an emergency for like another 6 months. And they have, it's like in the queue of reporters going along for the Saturdays. So when you work on Saturday, that's the perk. You know, you get to be in the Sunday paper, which is really fun. I mean, it's been pretty cool to have that.
Now, Karen, one thing, of course, today, I mean, I look above me, I see Ramon Scott, who I think of as our coronavirus expert. I know we've all been following it. Some new things came out today on the coronavirus, some new regulations here in San Diego. Could you talk a little bit about that? And I know, Ramon, you're going to want to chip in on this too, and Adam, I'm sure you will too.
You know what? I haven't kept up on that because I was really busy writing my San Miguel fire story today. So I actually would like to hear what happened. I am not up on it. So Ramon, if you want to chime in on that, I'd love to hear it because I don't even know what's happening with that. Give me the latest.
What I understand, we're kind of rolling back to the stage 2 restrictions down here now in San Diego as we passed the threshold, and the state has mandated that, things like indoor dining. Well, that's pretty much the main thing. I mean, there are a few other things, but indoor dining pretty much is going to be halted at midnight tonight for the next 3 weeks. Some other businesses as well may be forced to roll back their hours a little bit, but mostly retail will be able to stay open and everything. But I think the real bummer, Adam, is those dining establishments. Maybe those few in the county that have worked away outside to do some outdoor dining might be okay through this, but we've seen some businesses which tried to rally a little bit in time to beat these new restrictions or regulations, I should say, weren't able to get it done in time, and unfortunately they're going to have to resort to more delivery and pickup, at least for the next 3 weeks. And the state seems pretty solid on that. Seems pretty harsh to just come down with, say, 21 days and that's it, but I think that's where we stand.
Wow. I had gone to downtown El Cajon a couple of weeks ago because the city has itself allowed places that had outdoor dining availability to push out onto the sidewalk and to move some of the tables and chairs outside without getting like a conditional use permit, which normally is like it's a whole rigmarole you have to go through. They actually lessened the things that you have to do to like allow restaurants to have more outdoor dining. So I hope that can still continue with those places that are able to do social distancing for their customers.
Now, Karen, one thing could I ask you, Karen, one thing, because you were talking, I know it's 1st of July, new fiscal year, you're doing a lot of budget stories. How much is the coronavirus affecting budgets, and anything specific that you think of? I mean, anything in particular, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, pretty huge. The sales tax is way down because businesses were closed. Also, people weren't shopping as much in the stores because people are afraid to go out even when they did reopen. The online shopping, though, has gone through the roof from all the cities that I've talked to. They've actually been able to make some of what they thought was going to be a humongous loss in sales tax up by the online shopping. Because as you know, when you shop for something online, wherever you have it sent is, they look at where you are and that's the sales tax that's used. And then they divvy it up for the different states. So if you're in California and you buy something, say you live in El Cajon, the state gets a certain amount of sales tax, and then they divvy it up from all the communities, whatever, a certain percentage depending on how many people live in each city. So you get some of the sales tax back from the online buying. So, but it can't make up for people going into all your Targets and all of your mom and pop stores and things like that. So the sales tax revenue is way down, and that really affected everybody's budgets like a ton. A lot of things had to be cut in cities, like in Lemon Grove. They cut a sheriff's deputy, which is like $260,000, I think, for that position. They just couldn't, they couldn't make ends meet unless they did that. So the things are really being affected by just the lack of the sales tax. there's cities are, a lot of them are still helping out. There's been some federal monies doled out for the different cities for helping people with rent, mortgage payments and things like that. There's different ways that the government has been trying to help people kind of make ends meet until things get back to normal again. But, who knows when that will be and what is normal going to look like? I don't think normal is ever going to look like what it used to, say a year ago, 7 months ago, whatever. Like things are just in a very different place. Now, the coronavirus has, affected a lot of, obviously, people's take on, their how they want to be outside or how they want to interact with people too. So, I think even though the dining establishments are open, people are still afraid to go eat out. You might feel comfortable with your family, but, there's all these other people that are dining in the same establishment with you. And how safe do you feel being out there with those people? It was really interesting on Saturday after that motorcycle event. I covered something else at the county administration building that I don't even think it made the paper because there were so many other things going on. But I covered this event where they were recall Gavin Newsom. So people there, I think there was 2 people out of about 50 that had masks on, not including me. I had my mask on too, but people are very unhappy with what's happening around the state with the government kind of, they say, butting into what we're doing. But even so, people that I interviewed a couple from El Cajon, and I interviewed some other people that, they say that they believe, the virus is real and whatever, but that people should be able to do what they want to do. And how come, this, that, and the other thing can be open, but I can't be at a barbecue with my family. Like, it's just hard for people to kind of comprehend why some places can be open and yet, you can't be with your family. You can't, do the things that, seemed like they would be low, a low amount of, chances of you getting the virus would be low. But yet, these other places are open. So it seems that people don't understand why what's good for the goose is not good for the gander, let's just say.
It doesn't really make any sense to me either. Like I said, obviously I know the virus is real. But again, the biggest example that I'm seeing right now is he's, talking about the wineries and all that, everything else closing down. But yet the winery that he owns into isn't closed or isn't going to be closed.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's very frustrating to see things, like that. And like what you were talking about, Karen.
Yeah.
I talk to people all the time, because I work for Goodwill. So I'm interacting with people every day, talking about different things. And it's just so frustrating. Like you said, they were telling people, oh, you can't be at your house with a 4th of July party, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And then the latest thing that I saw was, and I'm still trying to get some clarification on this. Supposedly, the little kid camps and stuff like the sports wasn't even approved by the state. It didn't fall under the camp guidelines. One of the newspapers up in Northern California reported it, and I was talking to a friend, a guy I interact with on Twitter about it because he was trying to get some clarification on it. I mean, so and they can't, and then they come out with, oh, you can do this one day, but you can't do it the next day. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, and that's what I think is really frustrating to people is that one day they'll say, okay, masks are great, they work and whatnot. And then the next day they'll come out and say something else. It's like, well, make up your minds. What is the hard facts?
But think about this. Science is kind of ever evolving. So,
I understand that.
With more information comes different protocols and things that fall in line with new information that's found out. So I think, I'm not just to play devil's advocate, but I really believe that for the most part, people want to do what's right, and people are going to listen to the scientists and the doctors who give them, the most truthful information. But like everything else, everyone has an agenda. There's always an agenda for like different. Even the WHO doesn't agree with the CDC on things. I should say.
That's so weird.
You know, it's like I think people are just looking for what's the truth here.
Yes.
But how do you find that out? Who do you believe? Like, you know, everyone's got an agenda. So like one news organization can say one thing, another could say another. Like I said, like the CDC not agreeing with the WHO. Like, how does that even happen? Like, you have to be on the same page with this stuff, or nobody's going to buy into it.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Everybody's frustrated because, like I said, they want to get down to the brass tacks, but yet they keep changing answers or they disagree with each other. I mean, you got one scientist saying one thing and another scientist saying, it's like, okay.
Well, you know what, Adam? That's government. Let me tell you something. All of us here pretty much have worked for the Daily Californian, the newspaper. Right. When we were a daily newspaper, if Karen's my editor, if I'm working on a story, Karen either says yes or no, and if the answer is no, let's figure it out. So it's yes, we run in the paper tomorrow. You do things. I worked 16 years in government at San Diego State. I'll give you a good example. I kept telling a friend of mine how government can't make up their mind on anything. And he said, give me an example. Well, he got his own example one time. He went to a meeting where they had 7 items. At the end of the meeting, all 7 items have been kicked down the road. Government is not designed to make decisions. Government is designed to sit there and debate and debate and debate and meet and meet and meet. I mean, it's kind of like when I worked at San Diego State, a friend of mine gave me a cartoon. I need to say this slowly. He had the manager saying to the employees, we are going to keep having these meetings until we find out why nothing ever gets done around here. How appropriate. That's all I got to say. When you wonder why government's screwing up now, government's not used to making quick decisions. Oh, one example. 2 years ago, we voted where California would stay on the same time and not change time. That was 2 years ago. They still haven't decided. I mean, the 4 of us can make that decision here in 15 seconds. Let's just do it. But that ain't government. You don't make up your mind in government.
It's funny you mentioned SDSU. It's like when I was at Grossmont College on the Associated, when I was part of Associated Students, and I was on one of the committees, and I'm sitting there listening to all these people who are supposedly, you know, the experts on campus about things. I'm like, wait a minute, that don't make no sense. I mean, nobody could agree on what works and what didn't work. It's like they kept arguing with each other. And I'm like, why am I even on this committee? But
it's like, most of the meetings that I go to, the city council meetings that I go to, you know, I would say for the most part, they're on the same page. But every once in a while, depending on the subject, it goes around and around and around. And then till they, you know, decide what they're going to do, it moves to the next meeting. And then, you know, then it's going to go, well, we had more speakers, so we're going to go to the next meeting. And so like you're saying, it just gets kicked down the road. And like, when does it actually like change? When does something actually happen? Right. It seems to take a lot for things to actually just happen.
Mm-hmm. I'll help you, Steve, transition from that into our sports, because I think what we're at a cross our fingers type of point, I think, in the whole pandemic. We're having to shut down a little bit because of this scary spike. But you know what? We keep bumping up this testing and keeping that number. I know that number that Karen pays attention to is getting a little bit higher now, 5.5% maybe. But hey, how many cases do we not know about as well? So the more testing we do, maybe it's going to look a lot less desperate as far as the mortality rate's concerned. And Adam, I think the key to that moving forward is, look, this is the result. Right now, we've kind of been the result of the period where we had the demonstrations, right? A lot of people were out in public there. Oh. You want to equate the 3 weeks, Steve? Hey, we could kind of just mold it right into the start of the baseball season. Let's see where we're at. We get these 3 weeks over with. All we're talking about, unfortunately, is these poor restaurants that are going to have to shutter their indoor dining, which is bad for them. I mean, that's a pretty big chunk of the economy, but we're going to have to see what happens with this huge spike. If the mortality rate kind of stays the same, that's incredible news, because you would think that, yes, I understand that younger people are coming down with COVID, but they're still going to interact. Hopefully, we're doing a great job in our healthcare system. That's kind of what we're going to fix here and try to keep that down. But also, it looks like we're doing a great job protecting those vulnerable people. And if they are not seeing the rates that mold with the amount of positive tests, that's incredible news. And that could lead to one major organization. You talk about CDC and WHO getting on the same page. But if we hear the words from the CDC that the pandemic is quote unquote over, because there is an actual statistical point where they would say that, that's what we're looking forward to. And that could happen sooner rather than later. But I'm talking about within the month.
Now, Ramon, I want to ask you something on that topic, because I know we want to get to the second part of our show you alluded to a minute ago. We could definitely talk COVID all night, but I know another thing we want to talk, San Diego Padres, I guess today, to change the subject, because again, COVID, people, you can talk about it, and we can talk about it forever, but we did want to talk about the San Diego Padres. We have some interview stuff for the manager today, don't we, Jace Tingler? And don't we have some stuff for Fernando Tatis Jr.? Hey, there they are. There's the Padres in action.
Yeah, Steve, they started the summer camp. They say summer camp 2020, but of course, this is the only summer camp we're ever going to have. We're not going to have this problem again. But, team has been working out, and we got the dates of the schedule. The 24th, I talk about the 3 weeks, right? So let's look forward. The 24th of July, the Diamondbacks are going to come into town to play that first home game. I don't know, Steve. They might have you working those 2 exhibition games. The Padres are going to play a couple of exhibition games, a home and home, if you will, against the Angels on the 20th and the 22nd before they roll into a bunch of National League West teams and then into some American League West teams, kind of. That's the way it's looking. So Tingler today talked about that schedule, meeting those tough teams last week. It's funny. We had as our, in our segments last week, talking with Braden Surprenant about how the Padres schedule maybe was kind of easy, but I don't know. I still think it seems kind of tough.
Well, our focus is going to be on our team, honestly, and how we go about, playing the game. That's where our focus is going to be. Look, we're learning new protocols right now, and we've done a good job adapting with them. I think one of the challenges in being able to adapt is going to be when we get that schedule. When we talk about some of these road trips, our travel is probably going to look different than it has to what our norm has been in the past, as far as how we get on a plane, how we go to hotels, leaving the hotel and things like that. So those are going to be some of the interesting things that we're going to have to break down and talk about and have a strategy to.
Ramon, that's interesting. Let me tell you something about Jace Tingler, what he was talking about there with the schedule. As I say, the Padres are going to open, assuming the season goes on Friday, July 24th at 6 o'clock against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They open up with a 4-game series against the Diamondbacks here in San Diego. Here's what's interesting about the schedule. In September, the last month, the month you want to get hot, the Padres leave California one time to go up to Seattle for a 3-game series. So when the Padres get into September, if they're still in it, and they should be with a 60-game schedule, you got to love the fact you only leave California once, so you're not really going to have travel as an issue. I mean, for instance, there you see what's going on in batting practices and all, but again, they're going to be at Petco Park a lot. If they're not there, they're going to be in LA, Anaheim, San Francisco, or Oakland. I mean, they got a great September schedule, which I think they're really going to be able to capitalize on, as Jace Tingler was just talking about. Here we're seeing some BP. Looks good, doesn't it? What do you guys think? Karen, what do you think of seeing some baseball here? It ain't the Cubs, but it's baseball.
I love the Padres too. I'm very excited about it, actually. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, you got the baseball hat on now too, Karen. I know you've gone for the
my Patrick Henry Patriots baseball hat, Eric Karros era.
Wow. I expect Eric might come. We may see Eric Karros, old Patrick Henry Patriot, the first Saturday on July 25th, the second game of the season. The Padres play Arizona here at 6 o'clock. It's going to be on FS1. A lot of times when we do the games on FS1, I've worked several times with Eric Karros, the old Patrick Henry guy. He comes down. He's great announcer. Love having him work with Don Orsillo, but not as much as I like having Alpine's Mark Grant work with Don Orsillo because
yeah,
he watched
that's
practice
the
here.
best.
Doesn't get better than Mud and Don.
I'm like so excited to hear Mud again. Like I miss him. We text every once in a while and Facebook Messenger about this and that and the other thing, but I told him like I cannot wait to hear your voice again. Like it's just we need that. It's just not summer without him.
Exactly.
The Padres are going to have to build on that poor record within the division last year. I mean, basically playing, what is it, 60% of your schedule against division teams, and then the rest of them against the American League West, right? So that's a tall order. This team's going to have to come out of the gates. The talk is that the Padres are kind of a team that might be built for a fast start. You see it that way?
I do. They're a young team. And I think youth is exuberance. And I think one thing about exuberance and youth is I think that'll give them a fast start. They better have a fast start because when you're only playing 60 games, basically every game now is worth 2.7 games compared to what the normal 162 game season is. I think we also had, another thing, Ramon, we also, I know you have Fernando Tatis Jr. talking later too about the protocols they're going through because they're going through a lot. I mean, it's, again, it's still iffy. As you know, a lot of people have opted out. The latest today, Nick Markakis with the Braves, David Price, the Dodgers pitcher. And I'm betting that Mike Trout, the best player in baseball, I'm betting that he opts out. His wife's pregnant, and I just don't see him playing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we did hear some recent news. Let's hear from the Padres star. He's talking through a mask, kind of hard to hear. Hopefully you guys can hear this. And he will describe a little bit playing his practicing with the mask. And he was even asked by, I believe, Kevin Acey about wearing the mask possibly during a game. He kind of hinted that maybe he could, but the tone of the interview, by the end of it, I felt like this was just something that he was going to do during practice to protect himself and his teammates, and maybe when the games came around, maybe even wear it around his neck. But let's hear what Fernando had to say.
I feel pretty safe. I feel like one of the points is me wearing my mask, But what can I say? There's a lot of tests right now going on. Every team is sending out those tests, and hopefully they come a little bit sooner. But everybody's taking care of. MLB is taking care of what they can take care of in every single way possible, and they're doing a great job so far. They're doing all the protocols they can. So we just gotta follow the rules and establish what they want us to do, and that's it.
Interesting. As you know something, what's interesting too, Karen, I know one of the local guys, Chris Bryant from USD, who now plays for your original hometown team, the Chicago Cubs. Chris is the latest. He was questioning today, too, the whole health issue. As you know, what happened this weekend with, for instance, the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros, the two teams were in the World Series, they didn't even have their tests back from the weekend, the COVID tests. They didn't even practice today. So there's a lot going on out there that makes me think, I'm not so sure, Adam, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, and Karen and Moni, too, I'm not so sure they're going to have a season. I hope they do because we're all just dying to see live sports, but I just don't know.
If I'm a player, I'll tell you what I heard today, if I'm a player and those tests aren't back because they've been delayed or whatever, I'm not playing. Mike Trout is supposed to be making $40-something million this year, or some ridiculous amount. And if he's hesitant because of his wife, being pregnant and everything, or if I'm another player, they're not getting these test results, back fast enough like they're supposed to be, I'm not playing. I'm opting out.
Me too. Me same.
No,
like I said, that does not put any kind of comfort level, comfort at all to my anxiety or whatever. David Price, he opted out, like you said, Nick Markakis, and David Price, he was owed, I think, like 12 or 13 million or some really high amount by the Dodgers this year, and he's not going to play. Why would you play? That don't make, it's crazy.
Life is more important, and I think, especially, if you've got a wife who's pregnant, If you've got, anybody who's compromised with some kind of health issue, like that, what's, like there's nothing more important than, protecting yourself and your loved ones. This is like, it's not a comparison. Like you can't even say one or the other. It's like obviously family and your own health is going to be first. It has to
And
be.
it's not like the NBA where they're putting these guys in a, on a lockdown type bubble type deal either.
Yeah.
They're traveling.
Oh, yeah. Well, Adam, you know what I thought really, when you talk about the guys who've opted out, the two that really stuck out to me are Joe Ross of the Washington Nationals, and then his brother Tyson Ross, who used to pitch here. Why did they opt out? Their parents. One's a doctor, one's a nurse. Your parents are a doctor and a nurse, and you're among the first to opt out. I think that tells you about all you need to know about what's going on. That's why I say I'd love to see the Padres playing on July 24th, but don't bet on it.
We know baseball has kind of, let's just call it like it is. Some of the coaches in Major League Baseball are, up there in age a little bit. It's something where that's been the case for many, many years. So I guess that's a concern as well. I think that everyone is allowed to make their own decision on that. But I think that sports and society still wants to kind of move forward. Like I said, those numbers will dictate. Let's hear what Coach Jay Stingler had to say about how the Padres really – we talk about Tommy Pham. He got a positive test, but really has been the only Padre affected, while some of the other clubs have had a few other hiccups along the way.
Yeah, we saw some of the news out there. I mean, we can only speak on, I think, our experiences, and honestly, things have gone pretty smoothly with all our protocols. In fact, we've been tested several times, and through my lens, from when we tested the first time, second time, third time, for me and I think the majority of our group, it's been probably quicker and more efficient each time. So I guess we've been fortunate or whatever, but again, our group's been at it for a while, and so we feel pretty good with the process. We haven't experienced, at least yet, maybe some of the issues that seem to be going on.
So, Steve, I just think, Steve, if we're able to get this baseball season off the ground, I think that the stability of the effects of coronavirus will be the determining factor. I kind of feel like if we start rolling a little bit with baseball and some of these other sports, you saw obviously the unfortunate news coming out of Major League Soccer today. One of the teams had to cancel because they had too many tests. And but again, I mean, it's all kind of going to be relative. We don't want to get vulnerable people sick, but most professional athletes should be okay, as most people should.
Oh. Where did Moni go?
He got frozen.
He's frozen in time.
He's frozen in time.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, obviously the virus isn't going away anytime soon.
No.
I mean, I know the running joke is November the 4th. It's all going to magically disappear if Trump loses. I mean, I know that's the running joke.
I don't think so.
I take it. I mean, I don't care what it takes to have it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
I mean, that's the running joke with everybody I know who's a Democrat, or whatever. I mean, but all kidding aside, no, it ain't going anywhere. Like you said, Steve, I don't know if they're going to have be able to have a Major League Baseball season. I mean, I hope, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I don't know.
Moni, are you back with us?
Hey, Mon.
Moni's back with us. Hey.
Probably just them telling me to shut up. That I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I'm saying, guys. I don't know. Just that's the timetable for me, and I think if we get some things done, then things will be okay. I mean, I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah.
I felt positive last week. I still feel pretty positive, even though it seems like on the surface the news is rather crummy. I think the underlying statistics show that we can actually have some optimism.
I'm wondering, like, what the thought is around, like, the casinos and things like that with people, because the reservations pretty much can do what they want to do. Isn't that true?
Yes, they're sovereign
Yeah.
nations. Yes.
Well,
Here, I'll tell you, Moni can speak on that. Moni, if I could, real quick, I'm not going to say who, but somebody in my neighborhood, real close, works at one of the casinos. I'm not going to say who or where, but I know a couple things they're not doing. And Moni, I don't know if you can talk about this or not. They are not social distancing, that's for sure.
Oh.
And I think, it's funny because we go back to what we were talking about. It was interesting, you talk about the protests. Okay, they got the right to do it, of course. I remember, Karen, the day after Memorial Day, a story came out and said, I wonder if we're going to have a spike in coronavirus because of the protests. A couple of days ago, I was reading that it all started about Memorial Day. Well, I mean, I may not be the smartest guy in the world, but I know that 2 + 2 is 4. And if one story says Memorial Day and the other says the protest started Memorial Day, I'm not saying that's the whole cause, but that certainly has something to do with it. I mean,
I would think so too.
I think it's a combination of everything.
Sure. I mean, Adam, I did go this past Saturday night. I did go to church for the first time in several months. We're outdoor at Shadow Mountain Community Church. It was great because people there were social distancing. I mean, they were making sure they did it. And I mean, I think that's one difference. And boy, this is going to step on some toes, but the difference between like having a church open versus a bar, because I think at a church, at a synagogue, Karen, for the most part, people are going to listen to what you tell them. They're going to do it. But you go in a bar and people have had a few drinks. And I think social distancing and everything else goes out the window. And I'm not saying that I want to see anything closed, but people need to follow the rules.
Well,
I mean, like
I'll tell you what.
Says wear a mask.
The responsible restaurants enforce them rules, because the restaurant I was at the other night, once they wear, but I was out with a couple of friends of mine, and they made sure that you were wearing your mask when you were supposed to, and you obviously you can't wear them while you're eating, obviously.
Sure.
But when you got up to go to the bathroom and you weren't wearing it, they say, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, ma'am. Please put on your mask." Blah blah blah. Also, if people couldn't linger or hang out, that weren't with your party. So there are restaurants that are actually enforcing those rules. Now it's the ones that aren't, like the ones that got shut down, within the first 48 hours or whatever of them opening up. That's the issues, and that's the issues of what's going on, and why, as people say, we can't have nice things.
Yeah, and Karen, you're out and about a lot. One thing I think that's bothering me the most that I've heard, and I'm sure you've seen and heard it, are these people that go into stores and they, like for instance, Albertsons up here, you got to wear a mask, and then a store employee will say, ma'am, sir, put on your mask. All right, quit barking at the store employees who are just doing their jobs. I mean, I'm sick of that.
I know, it's pretty bad. Again, like at the protest that I went to at the County Administration Center, people were saying that we're tired of people telling us what to do. We don't want to listen to the government bossing us around. We're going to do whatever we want, basically. It's like, the reason those rules are put down is to protect the majority who want to be protected. And when you go into somebody's place of business, if that's their protocol, you shouldn't be even getting in there unless you're going to. And I know people have gone into stores and they take off their mask once they're in the store, which is like bait and switch kind of thing. Well, see me, now I have it, now I don't. And I know when I've been in the grocery stores, I always wear my mask. If I see somebody not, I'm like hightailing it down away from that person. I'm like, whatever I need, I'll get back to that area of the store later. Like, I'm not taking any chances. Because in a closed area like that, it's different than when you're outside and you can go and get some fresh air somewhere else. When you're in a store, there's only a certain amount of places you can move to where there's not anybody else. And because it's an airborne virus, if that person sneezes or whatever, I mean, you are SOL if you're in the near vicinity. Like, that's just scary.
Adam, the lady who lost the internet this week. The lady who lost the internet this week, Adam, was the lady who broke her finger went into a hospital without a mask, and the nurses wouldn't even admit her. And then she tried to turn it on them by showing how wrong these nurses were to wear a mask. And of course, just like that Starbucks barista who got all that
right.
money,
Yeah,
everyone rushed to
that whole
the.
thing with the Starbucks barista, that was stupid.
That was
Sorry.
really annoying.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Wow. Really? You guys thought that? I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
A fundraiser for that person.
Come
I thought that was
on.
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
If you want to support a cause, support something worthwhile. I mean, people are losing their homes, they're losing, jobs and businesses and whatnot. I'll gladly donate to that. Not some knucklehead kid who is a barista and because he told a gal to put on a mask.
Adam,
I mean, come on.
wow. Adam's tough. Uh-oh.
Oh, Ramon's here. We thought we lost him.
I wasn't
Hey.
mad at you.
No,
Wasn't mad at
Ramon,
you for being mad at the Starbucks
from
barista.
talking to a couple people,
100K.
talking to a couple people who I know actually currently work at Starbucks or work at Starbucks. I hope Starbucks goes after that kid to share that money as you're required to pool your tips.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you know what, Adam? Because I know we got about 20 minutes left. We want to cover three things. We did the coronavirus. We've done the Padres. The third thing, we want to talk about the preps. First of all, I mean, I'm impressed with that PH out there with Karen's Patrick Henry hat. I know we were going to talk some about what's going on in the preps now. We got a new commissioner. We got Joe Hines starting tomorrow. What do y'all think of that? I mean, Karen, did you know him from South Bay? You knew of him from South Bay as a football player, right? Didn't you know him as a football player? You covered him?
I think he played baseball too, as I recall. I was just telling these guys before you came on earlier when we were getting the show started. I remember covering that kid at Chula Vista High School. And I'm going, wow, I thought it was bad enough when Jerry Schneep was coaching Helix baseball when I was writing. And that was actually one of the kids I was covering. It's like, holy moly. I mean, I was excited to see, but it's exciting to see a name of someone that I know. That was cool that they kept it local because, a lot of these kinds of jobs, they bring in people from wherever. So it's a local kid, which I always like when they have somebody who's, a known entity. I don't remember him being like a superstar or anything. It's not like he was a big name, but, he obviously has done well for himself. I have to read the story because I don't know very much, about what he's done since high school.
Well,
But I'm sure he's gone on and, obviously made a name for himself, that he was picked.
Well, he was a big time administrator for the South Bay down there he was in charge of he was like their athletic commissioner type guy.
Okay.
In charge of the Sweetwater district.
Okay.
I mean, I know that I don't think that was the position title, but that was kind of like what he did.
Yeah.
He did that for quite a number of years. Because that's even where Jerry Schneep was. That was his title before he became CIF commissioner.
Yep. He was athletic director at Helix, I think.
And then he was also principal at Santana for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was again down the South Bay. He was in the same position as Joe Hines was for a number of years before he became the CIF commissioner.
Okay.
But no, Joe, it's a great hire. He knows, he knows all the coaches. He's got a good rapport, it seems like. And because they did have, like I said, they had a lot of great candidates apply for that position.
Who doesn't want that job? That's a really cool job.
You
definitely got to have the it's kind of being like a reporter. You kind of got to have the chutzpah to do it, I think.
Yeah,
I thought it was an interesting article this week by John Maffey, kind of portraying the relationship between Jerry Schneep and John Labetta and why that team worked so well and why Jerry kind of retired a year early because John was leaving, wanted Joe to have his assistant commissioner with him, join him. And first order of business, Adam, is going to be in a couple of weeks, that July 20th. It's a CIF state meeting, right? They're going to hand down maybe some information. What's our timetable on that? Or the community colleges? What can you fill us in on right now? Has anything changed?
Not really. The Triple C2A, the community college governing body, is meeting on the 17th. They're going to make their decision of what they're going to recommend And then obviously 3 days later is the CIF, what they're going to decide. I was reading. Go ahead and keep talking. I'm going to find the.
I'll just to make a quick announcement here, and Adam can bring back Steve and you guys maybe a little bit of comment on this because I think it's very interesting. First of all, Jerry Parker, the popular basketball coach, is coming back. He's been around, but he's going to be at Valhalla coaching girls basketball. So Parker returns.
Old spots.
Yes, returns to the East County sideline, and a big hire, another big hire at Mount Miguel. They go for another big-name coach, Ryan Meyer, the championship basketball coach from La Jolla Country Day. He takes over the boys basketball program that was led so great by Jay Rowlett, who passed away this past season, and don't want to take away from the fact that he's taken over a pretty rich program. It's been down the last couple of years while, things have kind of been shaken up a little bit down there in the hard scrabble of Spring Valley, but certainly the talent is probably there, and Meyer has an impressive resume, joining the likes of how about all the great coaches Mount Miguel has in many different sports, and Rowlett was a great coach, but Meyer is a great coach as well. Taking over the basketball program there. Adam?
Yeah, if you don't know, what else to say? Go ahead, Steve.
No, I'm just going to say, because we're going to mention Mount Miguel, the great coach, and don't forget, of course, Troy Starr in football. I mean, a guy who at one time worked under Urban Meyer.
And Robbie.
Robbie Sandoval, the list goes on.
Well, Ryan Meyer, if you don't know his pedigree, he actually, I do because I know him. He played basketball at Palomar Community College. In fact, he played on their one of their conference championships with Anthony Bolton up at Palomar back in 2000, 2001. Or maybe it was 01, 02. I'm not sure. I always get that mixed up because that was actually when I first started working up there at Grossmont. Now, when I saw him at La Jolla Country Day, I went up to him. I said, "You probably don't remember me, but I saw you play at Palomar College." And he was like, "I remember you." And he's like, "Come tell my players that I actually played basketball." It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy. It's a huge hire for East County. In fact, I think it's going to be a game changer. Within the next couple of years as he implements his system and like you said, brings the talent back up. As you said, it's been down a couple of years, but that was no fault of anybody's. It just happened.
Yeah, in fact, it was only like a year or two. I remember Rowlett just has led Mount Miguel multiple times to championship games, and they just had a great run a couple of years ago. Yeah. So Mount Miguel is a great program, and he's not looking to come in and rescue this program. He's a great coach, and it's a great program. And I think it's going to be an exciting.
He's already coached in the toughest league. At La Jolla Country Day, going up against the likes of Francis Parker, Foothills Christian, Army Navy, and the rest of that gauntlet. I think he's going to do really well with the next couple of years.
Adam, we sidetracked you from something. What, you were looking up an article or something? What did we sidetrack you from?
Back to the CIF timetable thing. So according to Fred Robledo, he's the local sports editor for the Southern California newspaper group, he tweeted out today, this morning at about 11:15 this morning, that the CIF state sent a survey to schools this morning asking how they plan to reopen schools, in parentheses, full-time, distant learning or combination, end parentheses, and if this and this question about what sport, if offered by CIF in the fall, would schools be prepared to field? The choices are, and the question was on the survey. He posted a little bit of the survey. Question number 3, if offered by CIF this fall, which sports would your school likely be prepared to field? Cross country, football, field hockey, golf, girls tennis, girls volleyball, water polo, boys in LA, San Diego Southern sections, boys and girls in all other sections, or none of the above. That was part of the survey.
Wow.
Wow.
And I asked him, because I tweeted him, I asked him, like, so that was that sent to all the schools, including San Diego? And he said, yes, I believe so.
Wow.
When will we find out the results? Any idea?
I'm not really sure about the survey. I just know we'll find out, obviously they'll use that. I'm assuming the results of that survey, and then obviously what our, health people have to say, health officials and everything have to say on the 20th.
Wow.
Wow. Interesting. I'd just be curious to it.
It's so odd to not have high school sports. I mean, I just like it's one thing about the major leagues and NFL and all this kind of other stuff, but like the kids, I mean, I drove by Monte Vista today on my way to the fire station, and the sign, the marquee at Monte Vista is like, the track's open, but only for walking and 6 feet apart. And all those little league fields that are over there and everything was empty. It's just like, it just struck me as how desolate and weird and sad it is to not see people out there. I drove by Patrick Henry's football stadium a couple days ago, and I just looked over to see, and nobody's there. Like, it's just weird. Like all the years, driving by these places, there's always somebody working out. There's, kids, doing stuff out there. It was just like, it just struck me as so sad today when I drove by Monte Vista and there was one lone person walking around the track. It's awful. It's really
I just hope that
sad.
we don't jump to, too quickly to conclusions on the school year. I mean, obviously we'll have some type of teaching, whether it be distance learning or the race to get back on campus. And I just hope that we don't make a decision too quickly. Don't be afraid to go, we used to go to school in September, didn't we?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk about school, something I saw today online, Harvard's going to be online this entire next year.
Wow.
And if you go to Harvard, you're still going to pay your $50,000 to go online just as if you were on campus. And the sad thing about college, though, it's the experience. I mean, if these schools are going online, the very least you can do is bring your prices down a little bit,
It's odd. That's so bizarre. I wanted to say something, and I wanted to have you guys chime in on what you think about this. So,
sure.
A lot of the stories that we're seeing about the schools and the school districts protecting the kids, the sports fields, protecting the kids from, whatever. What do you think about the teachers? Like, I feel like we haven't even heard what the teachers have to think about, how they're going to be able to protect themselves. They've got a classroom of whatever it is, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 kids, whatever. Like, what about them? I just feel like their voice hasn't been heard. If I missed that, maybe you guys, I don't know if you've been reading anything about that, but I feel like they are like the forgotten entity with all this, the administrators and the teachers and the teachers' assistants and all these things. Like, I was curious, how are they going to be affected? What choice are they going to have? Are the teachers' unions going to have something to say about that?
Tony, I just sent you a text with the Grossmont Union District that answers your question. So if you can put that up, Moni, on their Facebook.
Yeah, let me see if I can. I might be able to bring that up.
Yeah. Grossmont District, the Grossmont Education Association, in conjunction with the Grossmont District, it's a GEA/GUHSD joint statement. I just sent it to Moni, so hopefully he'll be able to put it up.
Okay.
It's supposed to be. It was they had sent out a survey to all the parents.
Yeah.
Not too long ago. I want to say probably within the last couple months.
Wow. Well, Karen, you bring up a good point. Another point, Karen, too, about teachers. How long is the school day going to be now? Because if you're social distancing, how are you going to do it? Are you going to have, like a class in the morning, a class in the afternoon, or how's that going to work too? I mean, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions out there. Wow, there's a long statement right there.
Wow, that's huge.
So what are they basically saying, Adam? What are they? You've probably read this.
They're basically going, they're giving options on what they're going to do, and it's basically saying that they're going to go to a possible quarter system. It's a flexible model for students and staff.
Wow.
It's flexible, designed to allow choices for families and the students. At the same time, the plan allows for different amounts of students on campus at one time, depending on the health conditions, based on the guidance from the San Diego County Health and Human Services Agency. They're prepared for 5 different levels of student on-campus attendance, with options for students that range from no students to various blended models with students, doing some of their learning on campus and at home, basically. So, and the changes to the calendar we were talking about, going back to school and whatnot. Under one of the, in order to better fit the quarter system and prepare for the school year, we've made the following changes to the calendar. Teachers will report on Monday, August 3rd instead of the 7th. Students start Monday, August the 10th instead of the August the 12th. Then they will add 1 full week to winter break, which will be December 21st through January 8th. And they'll move spring break up 1 week, which was originally scheduled March 22nd through April 2nd. And it'll now be March 15th through March 26th. And then they'll graduate for the last day for students and staff will be June the 7th instead of June the 3rd.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm glad you guys brought up the Grosse Mountain Union High School District too, because Adam, who signed that? Who wrote that letter? Do you remember?
That was from
James Messina, the GEA president, and Terry Stanfill, the Grosse Mountain Union High School District Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Yes.
Okay, because I don't know if this is out there, but Tim Glover retired. Sorry.
Oh, the superintendent. Wow.
Yeah. So I've been trying to reach him for like the last few weeks since I heard about this. I got a tip from Diane Jacobs' office of all places about Dr. Glover retiring, and so he's been on vacation. I'm not sure if he's back yet, but I keep meaning to. I'm glad you reminded me that I need to follow up.
We always break news here on Dolan's Dugout.
Yeah. Well, Karen, so does that mean is Diane Jacob going to be the new superintendent when she retires?
She started out on the school board out there. That's how she got started in politics. So
that's right.
I don't think she's going to be. Her one of her right-hand men is a former Union-Tribune news reporter that I'm friends with, and so he had heard through the grapevine about Dr. Glover, and he let me know that was happening. So I have not been able to get to him because he was on vacation, and their PIO said, we'll give him the message and we'll have him get in touch with you. But I still have not heard from him, so I will follow up on that.
Thank you, Dr. Glover, for being a great superintendent, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
I don't know him, but I think I've enjoyed following his leadership from my perspective.
Yeah, done a great job. Hey, well, let's. Go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry.
I was going to say what's been so interesting in a lot of things. I don't cover the school districts a lot because I'm so busy with my other endeavors covering the cities and the county area. But I have been to a few Grosse Mountain Union High School District meetings over the years. And it's always fun to run into my old coaches that are now administrating, like Doug Coffin. I'd see him around, Jeff Meredith, Brian Wilbur, like all these people that, were coaches and whatever in the day that are now, Larry Odewalt, all these people that I see, Mark Noble from El Cajon Valley. I was at Santana. Like I would see all these coaches in their, school, different way to look at them. It's been fun. And they probably think the same thing about me. Here I was a sports writer forever. Now I'm doing news for the last 10 years. It's sort of like, I don't know if it's called full circle or.
Oh, yeah. Whenever I see Coffin and I mention your name, and he's like, "Oh yeah, next time you see Karen, tell her she's great. She's just great."
She is.
I love all those coaches.
Grew up on us.
She is. Karen, you are great.
You left the toy department and grew up on us and left us here. But that's why we're here, because this is like getting the old gang. This is Karen's sports show. We've changed it. Forget Dolan's Dugout. Forget the intro, Steve. Karen's, now she gets her outlet every couple of weeks to come and talk some sports with us.
It's awesome.
She's going to be back with us in a couple of weeks. We've run out of time for tonight. We've hit our hour for tonight, but Karen Pearlman from the San Diego Union-Tribune, thank you so much for being with us. Adam Paul from EC Preps, as always, thank you so much for being with us. Ramon Scott, who runs EastCountySports.com, thank you for putting this show together. And most of all, for our listeners out there, thank you so much for being with us, and everybody have a very good night.
Good night, you guys.